What we have here is data describing the cost of airfare based on the distance traveled for destinations away from Baltimore. So we have these different destinations described. They tell us the distance from Baltimore and then the airfare that was charged. So first thing we want to do is describe which would be the explanatory variable and which would be the response variable. So what's going to be working independently and what's likely to depend. So in terms of explanatory, again, that one's going to be independent, kind of operates on its own, and that's how distance behaves. These distances are kind of set in stone based on how far away from Baltimore. These aren't changeable. If we're going to Atlanta from Baltimore, it's going to be 576 miles. So these values are working independently from airfare. And it is likely in terms of response, airfare often depends on how far you're traveling. Typically, if you're traveling farther, you would expect to pay more. So with this, our explanatory variable, or that independent variable, should be distance. And then what's responding is airfare. So that helps us determine which is X and which is Y. What we're going to do is create a scatter plot using technology and just double checking that we pass our conditions. So let's jump over to GeoGebra real quick, where I've gone to spreadsheet. I input all of our X values into column A, all of our Y values into column B. Again, we highlight everything, click on the symbol for the histogram, and we want to go to that two-variable regression analysis, so where we see that scatter plot. So we get our scatter plot out, and what we want to check in terms of conditions is it roughly linear? And yeah, I can imagine a line roughly going through this data. And it's never going to be a perfect line, or rarely is, but this looks pretty good. So we pass our conditions. That looks good for us. So we created our scatter plot. Yes, the data looks roughly linear. Then we want to know what is the correlation between the airfare and the distance of the flight. So whenever we ask for the correlation, what we want to know, what is R? So finding R, you go back to GeoGebra, and the screen where we have our scatter plot, we're going to click on the summation X symbol, so show statistics, and R we can see is 0.6953. So there's our correlation coefficient right there. So R equals 0.6953. So getting that value, from there we can write a description for the association between these two variables. So as soon as you get that number for R, you want to go to the number line that we drew. So 0.6953 is going to be landing in here somewhere. And what we get from landing in that region is we end up with a moderate strength and a positive direction to the data. So we have an increasing trend, and it is moderately linear. So the association between airfare and distance of the flight is moderate and positive. So describing the association, you should always have those two pieces of what is the strength, what is the direction. For the coefficient of determination, that's where we look at R squared. So you take your value for R and you square it. So taking 0.6953, square that, and we should get 0.4834. Again, what this is telling us is the percentage of variation in y that's explained by x. So we're talking about the percentage of variation in airfare that can be explained by the distance traveled. So interpreting it, we would say 48.34% of the variation in airfare can be explained by the distance of the flight. And notice with the coefficient of determination, like this we had a moderate strength, and we have kind of this moderate percentage of reliance on the between the two variables. And notice with our crickets, we had this strong strength, which led to kind of this high percentage of reliance. And that's going to come through. The stronger the correlation is, the higher percentage of variation that's being depended on between the two. And then as R decreases, as it gets closer to 0, this percentage of variation and how it relies on the other variable is going to decrease as well. So those should be matching up in terms of strength and how much are they relying on each other.